guys, we're going to go over the different phases of the LSIT exercise that we're going to be progressing in through this month. So there's 4 different levels. You don't have to make it through all 4. There's no judgment. All of them are good for you. All of them are going to engage this muscle, and the most important thing is for you to learn how to engage the muscle correctly and take care of your body. So you don't need to compare yourself to anybody else. You don't need to look and say, oh, that person does this amazing and I can't, so I suck. That's just not the case. So we're all starting from different places, and everybody's going to be able to engage in different ways. And this is just going to help us all level up our practice. So the first exercise we'll start with, you'll need blocks for. I recommend using cork blocks because they're a little bit denser consistency. So if you're used to the foam blocks, that will actually let your wrist sink in a little bit, and it may give you a little bit too much pressure on your wrist and cause pain. So I recommend using the cork blocks if you have them available. You can also use a hardback book or something else hard like a chair. So for our LSIT prep pose, we're going to come sitting in a staff position. So feet out straight in front of you. You're going to put your blocks right next to your hips on either side. You're going to place your hands directly down on your blocks and think about putting your weight in your fingers in this part of your hand right here rather than dumping the weight into your wrist. So we're going to press down with our hands, and that's going to lift our bottom up off the ground. And then the more important piece here is not the up, but the back. So when you're here, you're going to feel muscle engagement in your shoulders and in your latissimus dorsi, your lat muscles in the center of your back. But what we want is to specifically target the TBA. So what we're going to do once we lift up is pull the hips back as far as we can. You may feel some shaking here. I'm shaking. You can hear it in my voice. That's okay. That's your body working. So when you get back like this, you're going to feel the muscles in your side engage. You should be able to see a little bit if you zoom in, the muscle engagement here. So if you notice, it's flat right here and you don't really see any lines. But if I pull my hips back, you see the muscle engage on the side there, and that's the TBA. That's what we're targeting. If you have cramps in your quads when you start this, that's perfectly normal. So did I. You can just stretch out the legs, shake them out. We're starting with pretty low time and repetitions, and those will go away really quickly. This muscle develops strength very quickly, and you shouldn't have cramps after probably about a week or so of practice. So our next step, after we do the prep on the blocks, we're going to try to lift up on the blocks, and you'll see that in the progression as we go through the challenge. When I first started training my TBA, I could lift up off the floor for about half a second and then I fell. And if you're starting there, that's perfectly normal and perfectly okay. So we'll push up, sing, pull our hips back, and then we'll engage our lat muscles between our shoulders and lift our feet up off the floor. And you'll hold this for as long as you can, and it's okay to drop down when you need to. If your legs start cramping or you give out, that's okay. But don't let go of the exercise. So stay lifted here and keep pulling your hips back, and try to stay in some version of your LSIT for the entire duration of your repetition. Eventually, you'll develop enough strength that you can move to the floor. And when I first started training LSITs, I thought that my arms were too short and I would never be able to lift off the floor. But that's not the case. As your muscles gain strength, you'll gain the ability to compress them, and that's what actually allows you to lift up off the ground. It doesn't have anything to do with the length of your arms or legs or your torso. You can do it. I catch my breath for a second. So once we're here, we'll have our hands in the same position that they were on top of the blocks, but this time we'll just practice on a mat. You can also practice on the floor. I prefer the mat for grip and comfort. Then we'll push down. And here also, think about putting more weight in your fingers, especially in these 3 fingers, than you do in your wrist. We don't want to put a lot of weight back on our wrist, and you'll develop the ability to put more weight into your hands as you get practiced at this. So we'll push down into the ground and lift up. You'll notice that I'm not lifting nearly as high as I was in the blocks. That's because I don't have as much leverage because I'm on the floor, and that's okay. We'll pull our hips back as far as they can and continue pushing into the floor and engaging our lat muscles and our back, trying to push our shoulders down by way of pushing into the ground. So that's our third progression of the L-sit exercise. The fourth and final one is the most challenging. You may not make it to the L-sit lifting on the floor by the end of your 30-day challenge, and it is perfectly okay if you don't. You will absolutely gain strength no matter which one of these positions you are in. And the best thing you can do is to just encourage yourself for each and every little win that you have, because that's going to allow you to keep challenging yourself and keep growing. So last one. We're going to repeat the same thing we did on the blocks, but this time we're going to be on the floor. It's going to be significantly more challenging because we're challenging our body with more compression because we have less leverage because we're not elevated in position. So we're pushing down into the ground, we're pulling our hips back as far as we can, and then we're pressing into our hands to lift our feet up off the ground. And you'll hold this for as long as you're able, and when your body needs to release, let it go. Put your heels back on the floor and continue pulling your hips back until you finish the time duration of your repetition. And then celebrate, because no matter what you did, whether it was on blocks or on the floor, you're strengthening your body and you're investing in yourself. So thank you for taking the time to be here with me this month and today and learn these things. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the process.